All right. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for a Learning and Growing webinar, Engage Learning Practices for Student Success. Our presenter today is Dr. Elena Desjardins of Keene University. My name is Kyle, and I am your moderator today for Hawks Learning. We will have a live Q&A session after the presentation, so please enter any questions into the Q&A as we go, and I will now hand it over to our presenter.
Thank you so much, Kyle. It's so nice being here. I really appreciate this opportunity. I've presented with Hawks a few times now, so it's really nice to be back going over a different topic for today. My name is Dr. Elena Desjardins, and I am very excited to be here today and have the ability to discuss with you an area that's very important in the arena of the educational ecosystem. And it's on the topic of engaged learning practices for student success. We will discuss this topic during this time period, and we're also going to have some time to go over some of the current trends and best practices in the area. My hope is that we're going to have an opportunity to see some of the primary goals of this topic, sitting in the educational system in a post-pandemic environment, also focusing on areas of growth and future research and recommendations. And then jumping into any discussions that we may have and providing a case study or two would provide us just enough time to tap into the summary and then close within 30 minutes. Thank you so much again. So when we fall into this complex system of student engagement, we really have this interwoven connection of educational systems being this complex process. And we have the ability to sit in a variety of different dimensional groupings. Most times we have about 3 or 4 different areas that provide this depth of knowledge into emotional connections, behavioral connections, and cognitive engagement. And so when you think of this like a tiered system, we have the ability for student engagement to dabble into the area of emotional connections, behavioral and cognitive systems. But when you think of this a little bit more in depth, we are also looking through this in terms of a facet-like system, where we have students that have the ability to contribute in the area of the educational arena. We have the ability for participation and investments to take place. And we're also noticing that the learning experiences of students in a post-pandemic environment are so unique. So a complex system can be woven into so many different arenas. And when we think of where we were pre-pandemic, we see a system that was a little bit less perplexed. Now, 3+ years later, we are in this system of student engagement on top of coming out of a pandemic. So the magnitude of pressures from educators to administrators, from supervisors, K-12, higher ed, doctoral programs are perplexed because we've never navigated through this uncharted territories before. So the overall participation of students in the classroom, their learning experiences collectively and individualized are marked by a variety of different dimensions stemming from the 3 tiers by which we were speaking with before. Cognitive being at the forefront, so the brain-based developments, emotional entities, and also behavioral life systems. Sparking engagement in the area of education is very important. We have to be able to find ways and infusement of different areas to help students become innovative. And we also have to find ways to continue to support our teachers, administrators, supervisors, and leaders in the educational arena. And that's not easy to do. Finding ways that are demonstrative in process, but also fosters learning-based initiatives that allows for long-term learning outcomes to take shape, but also to highlight and to rally in student success. This is where the spark of engagement really becomes more of a super stage. Providing catalysts for learning and providing opportunities for students to learn and grow by educators that are strong in their subject matter like experience and also are leaders in their own right. So we find ways for students to be engaged by finding different opportunities for that engagement to take place. And it's more of a thinking outside of the box connection where we're no longer able to provide students the ability to sit in unconventional times. We are offering students the opportunities to sit on learning management systems, to work on really innovative programs, and to offer artificial intelligence and engagement to really sit at the super stage. Engagement as a word is very general, but when you layer this in the ecosystem of education, it becomes super stage. It provides opportunities for students to have vibrant like learning systems, but also to fall into this area of interaction. This is where learning really sets the gear high and the bar becoming one of the top aspects that we have to continue to hit. Not every single moment, but also we have to make sure that this approach provides opportunities for students to really be individualized learning perspectives. Sparking engagement is innovative, but it's also a catalyst for future learning successes. And I think of this as an opportunity for integration to take place, where students are involved in the classroom, where they're engaged in the classroom, where the successes are then rallied by future successes of students and cohorts of individuals. But you're also looking at this as a subjective and objective component, where you're seeing the strength as a teacher in the classroom and the strong student nature of the discipline level. But you're also seeing how well or how wonderful students are engaging among their peers by not having that macro approach as a teacher overseeing it, where the peer-to-peer interaction is really fostered by the learning disciplines. And that's where those inquiry-based opportunities take place. And future developments and future approaches tend to spark. Engaging students in learning is something that has been studied over time. Extensive research has been provided in these areas pre-pandemic, post-pandemic, and all the years in between. We find that student learning process tends to focus in a variety of different arenas. Students tend to be motivated because they're self-righteous in their own perspective, but they're also motivated by their teachers and administrators and family members. The motivation tends to take shape based upon their experiences. And students tend to find focus or to be re-energized in the area of growth. Sometimes when you think about engagement of students in learning, we focus this conversation on the student-centric approach to understanding, where the teacher puts the reliance more on the educational process of the student and creates an opportunity for a student-centric classroom to take shape, where the teacher is then the facilitator of knowledge and the students are there in a partnership with the teacher. Studies, research, opportunities in the area of the educational ecosystem have profoundly found that student-centric classrooms tend to work best for masses of students. And they work best because they're opportunity-based process that offers the ability for participation of all parties to take shape, where students are learning maybe in small groups, maybe by pairing the students up together, or maybe by having inquiry-based learning capsules where critical thinking tends to be morphed and the catalyst for future learning successes tend to be conducive based upon the environment by which these students are growing in. It's all about fostering this engagement and providing opportunities for success. But when you think about student-centric approach to education, decades of research have really sat in this arena, and the inclination that critical thinking will take place tends to be monopolized. Fostering student engagement through active learning is something that we as educators tend to utilize as a forefront approach. Active learning is something that's dynamic, it's innovative, it's grit bound. It is provided for students so that the students can have a learning process that is developed upon a true instructional approach of strategies that offers all learners to be individualized and personalized in their own right. So strategies include some kind of interactive approaches, but also a layering of different developments of a Q&A, a questions and answers, Socratic method as well, where the teacher has, or the facilitator has this overarching conversation with students, and then they're interwoven and intermingled into this multidimensional framework. Active learning provides opportunities for embedded growth dynamics, and it also provides opportunities for long-term visions and long-term objectives to take shape. We hope that through active learning, that lectures tend to become 3D and three-dimensional, where the PowerPoints that are provided for the students also become activity-based, also become dynamic in terms of how students can then use this information in real-world setting. It's offering the students the opportunity to gain the curriculum matter, to understand the theoretical confines, to offer the ability to work on particular skill banks, in the hopes that students will then use this information in the real world beyond the walls of the classroom, building up the students with this information to provide them active opportunities for them to foster growth, foster engagement, and then lead the students with the skills, soft and hard skills, so that they can pass on to their future opportunities and initiatives. Active learning in the educational ecosystem has been studied for a period of time. We find that through this process, it becomes a learning engagement that students often find very rewardable. Also, from a teacher administrator perspective, it's a very rewardable conversation, because we're not only interacting with the subject matter, the topic at hand, but we're also interacting with the student's needs in a personalized perspective. So it's driving the curriculum and the development, but also personalizing the process. So as you're driving this curriculum, you're also engaging an individualized perspective for your students. So this helps from a teacher and an administrator point of view, because the teacher is learning about the students, right? To see where the area of needs are, the extra support, right? But also is helping for our students, because the student is actually taking part in the learning process, and it becomes more of an accountability, responsibility component. Students are encouraged to learn and take real active roles in this construct of knowledge, and providing an understanding that offers engagement, interactive abilities, collaboration, and communication, and also an enhanced retention of application of knowledge. It's about the journey of getting the students where we need to go and where they need to be to pass the course, to get through the program, to gain the certification or knowledge portion. But it's also about building up the students and giving them real world knowledge and tools to be successful, so that they are then able to make and fortify new word meanings from the information based upon the subject matter. Active learning improves student success. There's many different areas and resources that have provided this conversation to take shape. Decades of research that have sat in indicating that active learning practices not only effectively help students with their long-term success, but also fortify their short-term gains. In terms of lecture-based assessments, in terms of lecture-based class dynamics, students are less likely to fail, of course, if an active learning process takes shape. Students become part of the process, part of the classroom, as opposed to being a body within the class. Their goals and their fortification and their long-term successes are then masked and mimicked by this overall ecosystem. Many studies have also taken shape where there's a contribution that also fortifies these achievement gaps. So when we're looking at students over the cohorts post-pandemic, we're seeing that there was definitely a need to provide students academically enriching material, but understanding that there was a layering of behavioral and emotional needs that were not being met. So many programs were revamped, redeveloped, that fostered the ever-growing need to understand that there's a complex system out there. It's not just curriculum. It's cognitive, it's behavioral, and it's also the need for students to have this enrichment. And so when we see this in a large spectrum, we understand that improvements of student success are not just teacher bound. It's a relationship and a responsibility amongst all parties. Active learning has been shown to have numerous benefits for students, and this beneficial value is tenfold. It provides a personal growth or a personal investment from the student perspective, but also solidifies from a teacher perspective and an administrator perspective, where active engagement tends to build stronger connections with the subject matter, but also stronger connections among the cohort of students. So what happens with that? If students are then connected with the teacher, and then students again are connected among the peers, it creates the opportunity for networking to take shape. And so if students are gaining the skill of networking, they're also gaining the ability to be part of a cohesive group that is fortified based upon beneficial values. So the ownership of the learning process becomes better and more engaged, and also provides for long-term growth mechanisms, building skill banks, soft and hard. It's not just the curriculum, it's also about the soft skill, the ability for students to work in groups, the ability for students to work with peers, the ability for students to critique each other and reflect from that. This is the whole process of active learning. And studies have shown that the long-term gains are extremely beneficial. This also takes this portion of conversation where discussions, group work, hands-on experiences are more of a contributing effect, because students are taking their ownership and they're taking their own reflection and part of this. So it's not merely where it's this top-down perspective, this macro perspective, where teachers are driving the instruction, as you see on the picture there, talking to a PowerPoint, and students are sitting back listening for 40 minutes. It's no more of that. Students are coming together. Teachers are becoming part of the group, getting down on the same level as students and working with the students in the group, facilitating their knowledge, but also becoming a model-like system where the teacher is then molding the student to be extensions of them in the future. Subject matter, graduates, ownership. We recognize the importance of student engagement in the learning process, and we recognize this as a valuable portion of teaching our students in the post-pandemic arena. Studies have fortified this conversation where we are driving students with confidence. We are driving the students in the hopes that long-term goals will be met, but we're doing this in a way that complex systems have to be recognized. So engagement of learning, development of confidence, and also the development of community-like initiatives becomes the core of this system. We have to implement strategies that are based upon addressing student needs. We have to understand that the fostering of supportive learning environments must be at center stage. We have to be able to recognize very clear expectations and learning objectives for our students, because years have really dictated that puzzle pieces needed to be put back together. Learning contexts had to be reshaped, and offerings of not just the curriculum, but a social development process also had to be rebuilt back together. Providing students a variety of different instructional methods and modes is really important when we think about this student-centric approach. Offering the students the ability to drive in real-world connections and connecting pieces in a larger totality is critical. And then providing timely and constructive feedback to our students and recognizing and rallying behind their successes, but also understanding the need to pivot and foster their growth mechanisms. Bonds and connections. This is some area that tends to grow and tends to become a focus point. Engagement on school level, establishing strong bonds and connectedness for our students and teachers is crucial for fostering positive and supportive learning environments. It's the cultivation of relationships, trust, rapport, and building strong morale in the classroom. Really critical to overall student success. Understanding that academic processes is not only built upon the curriculum, it's also built upon social experiences. Recognizing the students' needs and understanding their connectiveness is vital to the culture of the school, and also vital to collaboration, empathy, and active participation in the educational journey. Bonds and connectivity. Extensive research that has been consistently demonstrated that has been profoundly reliant on academic achievements as well as the engagements of students in the classroom. It's not just about the curriculum, it's building sound students that are confident about the subject material, but that also feel valued in their own right through the process of engagement and also the long-term growth mechanisms of the promotion of social experiences. Case study of Chicago Public Schools. There was a case study of Chicago Public Schools that was a really noteworthy study when we think about this student engagement process. And the study found that between teachers and students, they emerged a more influential factor in determining students' sense of safety within the school and the environment, and the poverty students and crime rates of the neighborhoods. So in this particular study, the fostering of student relationships was really critical, and also provided the need to highlight extreme supportive environments and the long-term growth of educational settings. So when we think about this study of Chicago Public Schools, some of the highlights take shape. Students that were provided supportive atmospheres, long-term gains were met at a greater speed. When we think about this student-centered relationship, we also think about not only the academic, the curriculum value, we also think about the sense of safety for the students in the classroom and making sure that students are valued and providing that student-centric approach. Educational best practices are something that we think is tending to grow, but also tending to change as well. Best practices in the field of education, especially in the area of student engagement, has been redeveloped post-pandemic to incorporate different arenas: cultivation of positive classroom climate, collaboration and peer interaction, the ability of student choice, choosing what the student wants and choosing what the student needs at the moment is really critical to the metacognition process, and also the notion of reflection. And last but not least, the offering of real world connectivity. It's all about sustainability. It's all about providing enhanced student opportunities where sustainability is thriving and at the forefront, because we want all our students to be successful, but we want all our students to have the ability to be sustainable. Reigniting student engagement post-pandemic world really requires a strong, deliberate, and thoughtful approach. We have to be able to plan effective professional development days. We have to make sure that we have high impact tutoring services that targets the needs of our students. We have to be able to understand that there is an emphasis and importance of trauma-informed teaching approaches that also fosters social and emotional learning systems. These areas, planning effective professional development, tutoring services, and informed teaching practices, help the process in developing deliberate and thoughtful approaches to raise the bar for student engagement. And last but not least, layering this approach in to this post-pandemic world of where we are in terms of tools for success for our students, artificial intelligence comes in the forefront. So many times teachers rely on artificial intelligence to foster in-depth and multi-dimensional lesson plans and writing prompts for students for writing activities or designing assessments that are student-centric and personalized. So using artificial intelligence to foster students' initiatives and growths really helps boost the student engagement, and also brings us into this really challenging approach for educators and the thrill of new possibilities. Some future recommendations are that teachers face-to-face learning, virtual learning, and engagement as a whole really needs to be tailored to the individual needs of our students. We have to really set 2 feet, both footings, in this area of personal learning and student-centric approaches. So we have to understand that artificial intelligence can be relied on to help promote this and use it as a valuable support system. And then we also have to be able to understand that scalability is so critical post-pandemic. Providing educators tools for success based upon enhanced learning capacities, but also understanding there's an integration of these tools to be able to optimize the quality of instruction. And last but not least, it's all about sustainability, providing tools for success for our students, our educators, and our researchers in this arena, and providing ways to be able to support the totality effect. Thank you so much.
All right, Dr.
Thank you.
Desjardins, that was awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We really appreciate you coming on here and talking to us. That was extremely informative, and it was, awesome to listen to. So we really do appreciate you joining us today. Don't forget, anyone out there that might have a question, feel free to drop them into the Q&A. It looks like our first question here is, can you put the resources slide back up?
Sure. Thank you.
Awesome. So looks like our next question is, any suggestions on how to use AI in the classroom?
Oh, that's a great question. I'm going to stop sharing this for now so I can actually see you. It's very, very critical component. I definitely feel using it as a tool for success will allow for opportunities for future engagement with our students. I've used it for prompting, for writing prompts, or helping to write individual prompts and finding many different arenas in terms of dynamics for students. Writing prompts, writing assessments is something that it's important, and writing is critical, as we know, for every discipline, even mathematics. Writing is important. So prompt development, and also finding ways for students to be more organized. I think post-pandemic, there was a lot of time that was in transitionary mode. And I know for myself, a lot of my students are very unorganized, or they need help being organized. So using artificial intelligence tools to help that process, I find that it is useful as well. So getting back to being organized. Thank you.
Awesome. So our next question looks like, any specific examples of incorporating sustainability in the classroom?
You know what? Students are in this post-pandemic environment, and sustainability is something that we hope that all students will be able to thrive post you, right? Post the four walls of the classroom, the certification, the program that you're in. Building soft skills for students will enhance sustainability. So, what are soft skills? Team building skills, the ability to collaborate, teamwork, group cohesiveness, finding ways to incorporate students' soft skills, presenting, have the students present in the classroom, reflective capacities, critiquing. That will build sustainability because that will always shine. Even though a student may not be subject matter expert, maybe their soft skills will shine. So it'll continue on with the process. Sustainability, soft skills, I think they go hand in hand.
Right. These are some good questions. I'm learning a lot here. So we'll move on to the next one. It looks like, how can we ensure students are learning with AI as opposed to just using it to get answers?
Oh, sure. So we're definitely not just using AI just to get answers. I'll use the organizational component. Students that are learning, starting their process, they need to be able to be organized in their writing notes or their binder or setting up their tools for success. So finding resources for students that are dynamic, but also finding ways for artificial intelligence to be used as a tool for success and not just a reliance. And I think about eyeglasses for myself. I mean, I wear eyeglasses, and it's a tool for my success. And without them, I'm a little bit behind a little bit. So tools for success, and maybe you have a special pen or a special resource. That's where I'm using AI as well. So just one extra string for your bow, tool for success.
Right. All right. Our next question is, do you have any apps you can share for AI? And this might tie into another question here. So what are some of the open source, innovative, and creative resources that you recommend?
I definitely like ChatGPT. I am a strong proponent of ChatGPT, only for prompt development and writing sources, ChatGPT. But many may not realize that Grammarly.com is also artificial intelligence. So if students are struggling with their writing skills, or maybe just even composing an email, there may be a struggle there. Using Grammarly as a tool for success, and that's artificial intelligence, helps students become more confident. And with confident, it boosts their soft skills. And with soft skills boost, it boosts their sustainability. So it all comes hand in hand.
Right. All right, our next one here is, how do you find the balance of establishing bonds and connectivity, but still being taken seriously as a teacher, i.e. deadline, time management?
Yeah, I think that's a really great question. I find that building rapport with students is really pivotal. Finding interest, talking about areas of interest for the students. Maybe their hobby is into sports, bringing that in that conversation, or music, bringing that part of the conversation. Finding peaks and valleys that are common. And also having the ability to or foster long-term growth. Finding ways to build rapport is an area that's ever so needed, and it ties into that sustainability component as well.
Absolutely. All right, our next question is, we would like to have student-centered classrooms, but very often students indicate that they would like teacher-centered classrooms where the teacher gives information and moves on. How do we engage students in this case?
So it goes back to an old school method called Dr. Charlotte Danielson. There's a whole phenomenon, teaching effects, late 1990s, where classrooms are built upon frameworks and quadrant-like systems. And there's a whole theory behind teacher professional development and student learning prospects, and learning through areas of setting up classrooms with soft spaces and areas where students can grow in their own right. But finding ways for the environment of the classroom to work in advantage point as opposed to using it as a disadvantage point. So what I mean by that is setting up a classroom where allows for growth to become part of this conversation. So as opposed to rows, right, an old school method, maybe setting up a classroom like a U or like an X shape. Or maybe setting up classrooms where students are not even sitting at desks. Maybe they're at the chair and sitting at, semicircles. Also setting up classrooms that provide for soft learning spaces. And so reading areas for students to collaborate. And yes, many times we don't have enough space or there's restrictions and stuff like that. But knowing that the actual learning environment by which teachers and students are sitting in for hours a day is really important. So putting some reliance on that area, I think, is critical to setting up a classroom that is based upon student-centric concentrations, as opposed to top-down macro level teacher, driving a PowerPoint for an hour.
Sure. Our next question here is, could you expound on the concept of scalability for classroom purposes, and would rubrics help?
Sure. Yeah, that's a great question. So rubrics definitely help. Absolutely. But I don't want to only think of as a quantitative component. I want to think about it more as formative assessments with less restrictions. So how can we observe objectively students working in a group where I, as a teacher, I want them to learn more soft skills. You as an educator may want them to work on a particular topic, but together soft skills and hard skills are built. But we're not putting this on a test. We're not putting this on a quiz. We're trying to increase their level of knowledge, but also increase their soft skills. So showing growth is something that we want to see. But growth is not only written on a piece of paper and circled in with the letter A on a multiple choice test. Growth is the ability to witness, two students working together on day 7 that were not working together on day 2, and they were both comfortable working in small groups. So scalability is something that is great, but it's not only measured in a rubric.
Our next question here is, how can we employ project-based learning by having students work with students from different classes or disciplines?
That's a great question. So project-based learning is something that has become more adaptable post-pandemic, working together in cohesive environments. Project-based learning, I like to use portfolio-like systems where students are coming together and building individual portfolios, but also maybe group portfolios where they can collaboratively work together in a large project-like spectrum over maybe a semester or a period of time. And then you can visually see the scalability, the growth, the soft skills. So portfolios is the way to go, I believe.
Sure. Our next question is, how do you set up soft spaces in a Zoom class?
Okay, so that's a great question. Soft spaces in a Zoom class. Well, we have the restrictions of the classroom of Zoom per se, right? So soft spaces would be a breakout session. So maybe you want to make a breakout session towards a famous children's literature book that students have read, or maybe you brought into conversation, or maybe you're reading a novel in the classroom and you're going to break it up by chapter, or maybe you're picking colors out of a color wheel, or favorite flowers, or summertime, maybe favorite beach or something like that. Soft areas where students have the ability to come together and really feel like less pressure of the restrictions of a lecture but an area by which they can work collaboratively together in that support.
All right, this next one is a long one, so buckle up. The theory in our curriculum is entirely sourced on an online portal. Because our curriculum is pre-built through the system, I often find it difficult to balance my time between what the online curriculum presents and requires with what I, myself, as an educator, would like to be able to give them from my own experiences. What are some ways I can better incorporate and integrate my own knowledge and teaching style into our AI preset curriculum/format?
Love the question, and thank you so much. I'll take a few words out of there. Innovate, but I'm also going to layer that with integration. And when we think about using our own personal style as teachers, every teacher teaches differently. We're not teaching the same, and every student learns differently. So our teaching style plays a role with our social style as well as teachers. So sometimes teachers are more reliant on using modes of teaching PowerPoint and less on group developments. So we have to find ways to personalize the journey of an educator. And so what do I mean by that? I really like flowers. So maybe I'm going to, make analogy that's based upon some kind of flowers, or I really like to go fishing, or whatever the case may be. So I'm personalizing my journey as an educator and a teacher in hopes that it would spark a catalyst for our students and make sure that we're using our interests as a way, or a catalyst for future growth developments. We want to continue to grow as educators, and we want to continue to engage in professional development and continue education. And we don't want to ever become stagnant in our process. So we have to make sure that continues and shines in their classroom. And finding ways to do that is always interest speaking, and personalizing the journey of our educational process as an educator also will mimic and support the learning process for our students as well.
Awesome. I love that answer. Our next one is, how can we enhance student engagement when a class is in the asynchronous mode?
It's, student engagement can come in a variety of different forms. It does not have to be so rigid as, we're coming together and I'm going to give you a discussion question and the students are going to talk about it. It could be simple as you have a few minutes ahead of class, maybe having a dialogue of, what did you do over the weekend? Or, what is your favorite hobby? Or did anyone see the latest movie, or something to that effect? Finding ways to be able to tap into students' needs and engage them on a topic, because it not only builds the availability of students to feel part of the group and togetherness, but also provides opportunities for students to learn skill banking beyond the curriculum material. And so when we're thinking about this in the totality effect, we want to make sure our student emotional developments are up, and finding ways to be able to support not only the cognitive, but also the emotional well-being of our students, because it should go hand in hand. So spending a few minutes here and there, just weaving it in, definitely spends, it's better to do that, to find ways to incorporate it. And I know it's hard. I mean, it's definitely difficult at times, but tap into the needs of our students, and the success and the growth will definitely shine.
All right, and then this might be our final question here,
Okay.
unless we get another one. But for PBL, how do you convince faculty to give up some of their assignments or assessment for student working outside the classroom?
I think it goes back to the sustainability component, right? We're building strong bodies of students that are not only skilled on the curriculum, but also skilled in the future workforce. It's all about college and career readiness, college career readiness at kindergarten and college career readiness at grade 12. It's all about, the after effect, and not only college, it could be vocational trade or whatever's beyond that 12th grade sector. Understanding that it is a learning process, and if a student is learning from this and we're demonstrating growth, then putting those two arenas together, and developing a portfolio for the student that showcases the formative assessments, and then also showcasing the skill bank, and then finding ways to be able to create a partnership and interwoven connection in that area. Great question.
Awesome. So that looks like it was our last question. So that
Great.
being said, thank you so much, Dr. Desjardins, for
Thank you.
joining us today. It was awesome to have you on here. And thank you all for attending today. We will be emailing you a link to view the recording of the webinar once it becomes available. If you or any of your fellow instructors are interested in presenting for our Learning and Growing webinar series, please submit your proposals to the Learning and Growing website, which I will link here in the chat for you now. These free webinars are brought to you by Hawks Learning, an innovative educational courseware company. To learn more about our mastery-based course materials and how Hawks can enhance learning outcomes for you and your students, you can visit www.hawkslearning.com. Hope everyone has a great rest of your day, and thank you all again for attending.